Joining us right now, Maryland's own Dr. Ben Carson, author of a brand new ebook. It's called One Vote, Make Your Voice Heard. In fact, you like the sound of that? You like the sound of a new book by Ben Carson? Well, you can go to WMAL.com. Right now, you'll find a link on our morning show page there, and you'll get a free digital copy of Dr. Carson's book.
How about that?
So, WMAL.com.
It's good to know us.
One Vote, Make Your Voice Heard is the name of the book. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Carson.
It's always a pleasure to be with you.
So you've been in the news over the last couple of weeks, sort of openly saying, sure, you're very, very seriously considering a run for the Republican nomination in 2016. So I got to ask you about some current events here, most specifically this horrible crime we saw in Oklahoma City. This man goes into his workplace after being fired. He's a recent convert to Islam, and he beheaded a woman and was stabbing another woman. The administration, the president, the Department of Justice, they're calling this workplace violence. What do you call it?
I think that's ridiculous. I mean, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's probably a duck.
So you think this is an act of terror?
Of course it is. I mean, the fact that we have trouble even identifying something makes it very unlikely that we're going to deal with it.
And if you were president, what would be your strategy with regard to radical Islamic terror?
Well, I don't know that there's much you can do about an individual in a workplace like that. But we do have to recognize that, ISIS, one of their goals is to destroy us and to destroy our way of life. So there's no playing footsies under the table with people like that. You have to make a decision that you're either going to submit to them or you're going to destroy them. And if you make the decision that you're going to destroy them, you use all tools available. There's no such thing as politically correct war.
Well, the President of the United States, we are told, missed about 58% of his daily national security briefings. And he seems to be reluctantly coming to the conclusion that we need to do something about ISIS. Why do you think there is such a reluctance on the part of this president and what would appear to be a great deal of incuriosity about what's going on in the world around him?
Well, either he doesn't recognize the severity of the threat to us, or he's in denial and doesn't want to admit that we are at war and doesn't want to do things that makes it look like we're at war. But, a level of maturity must prevail if we are to survive in a world that's this dangerous. We've taken our eye completely off of Iran, who's busily going ahead with their nuclear weapon plans. Now, just think about it for a moment. A nuclear Iran?
Yeah.
Nuclear weapons in the hands of people who think it's a glorious thing to die? All the things that used to prevent nuclear war, a deterrent, have disappeared.
Yeah. Our guest is Dr. Ben Carson. And Dr. Carson, you were sort of thrust into the public spotlight when you appeared at the President's National Prayer Breakfast, and you openly criticized the President specifically with regard to Obamacare. We're now entering into the second open enrollment. It'll happen, surprisingly, right after the midterm election. I wonder if you think Obamacare is going to be the hot-button political issue looking forward to the 2016 campaign, or do you think people are just sort of like, well, we're stuck with it now?
My guess is that it's going to be a very big issue. As the employer mandate kicks in and more people lose their insurance or have to pay considerably higher premiums, it's going to become a big issue. That's why they kept pushing it off until after the election.
And so what's your solution?
I feel that we need to have a completely different type of system where we put people in charge of their own health care. And, SaveOurHealthcare.org, if you go to that website, it talks about how you do that. But basically, with health savings accounts, with people in charge of their own health care, along with their physicians, you bring the whole medical system into the free market economic model. That controls pricing, that controls quality, and it can be done for considerably less money than we're paying now.
Okay, I'm just going to, I don't normally go down this path, but I'm going to have to today because, I judge you, Dr. Carson, to be a man who doesn't play games. He doesn't play those typical Washington games. You're a straightforward guy. You tell people what's on your mind. You don't hide behind, all kinds of cloudy language. So I'm just going to ask you straight out. Are you going to run for the office of the presidency or not?
As I've said before, it depends on a number of factors. I want to see what's going on after the elections in November, and whether, in fact, the people of this country really want to move in the direction of a country that is for, of, and by the people, a country where the government conforms to the wishes of the people, as opposed to a country where the government dictates to the people what they should be doing.
Well, let me stop for a moment, because what about the coming election would inform your decision?
Whether, in fact, there's substantial movement toward a change in the leadership of the United States.
And so if there wasn't, you would be inclined to or not to?
If there was not a substantial move in that direction, I would take that to mean that, the people of the United States are pretty satisfied with the government being involved in every aspect of their lives. And this is a democratic republic. And if the people really speak and say that's what we want, I'm not going to put myself above the will of the people.
Dr. Carson, let me ask you, you talk about the midterm elections. Part of what's happening in the midterm elections is the governor's race right here in your home state of Maryland. And I haven't heard you chime in about Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown and his opponent Larry Hogan. How do you think this race has been going? And do you think that Larry Hogan has a good chance here? I point you to an article just today in the Baltimore Sun by Dan Roderick, who says that Anthony Brown's attacks on Larry Hogan make him seem desperate, like it's a lot closer than the polls suggest.
Well, I happen to be a resident of the state of Florida now.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
Oh, you moved out of the state. Oh, all right. Well, but you know Maryland politics. Are you not following the governor's race, though?
I can't say that I'm following it closely. Honestly, I'm following a lot of races now.
I bet you are. I bet you're a man in demand in a lot of those cases. All right, well, then let me swing you back to this question of 2016. As you weigh the possibilities, you've got to be focused on the other people in the field. We just heard yesterday that Ted Cruz is very seriously considering it. Who do you see, if it weren't you, if you weren't the man, who do you see as sort of the prime candidate right now other than Ben Carson himself?
Well, I think it's really too early to say, because we really need to go through a process of vetting, of debates, so that people's ideals are actually put out there.
Given that, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but we're almost out of time, and I really want to ask you this. Given that, and the fact that you have never run for public office before, don't you think that you should run for maybe, governor, Congress, Senate, or something else before launching a presidential campaign so you can be properly vetted?
I think the proper vetting will come with further exposure, with debates. And when a person actually has an opportunity to explain what they mean, rather than having it interpreted by those who are afraid.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. Dr. Ben Carson, thank you so much.
Time. Thanks, Dr. Carson. Always enjoy talking to you. And again, I want to remind you, the book is called One Vote, Make Your Voice Heard. This is an e-book, and you can get it for free. Just go to WMAL.com and then go right to the morning show page. That would be Mornings on the Mall with Brian and Larry. That would be that.